I'm Bob Skinstad, and we're doing a little bit of a collaboration with Champagne Rugby, where myself and my guest in the studio, Rory Lawson, are looking at some of the toughest rugby players of all time. We've got a couple of tiers. I'm going to get Rory to join me on this, but the God tier are the blokes that you never want to square up against them. You know, they're not going to lose. They're not going to give an inch. The referees love them. The fans love them, and you're going to be steamrolled for most of the game. The top tier, they might not be full-on maniacs and impossible to beat, but they're as tough as they come, and every team definitely needs one. Often a captain is sort of a top tier. Ross, so I don't see your name or my name on the list, so we're going to be in trouble about that. The middle tier are strong and resilient. They've had their moments. When it comes to pure intimidation, they're just a little bit short of the top dogs. And then the lower tier, they've had their hits, but let's be honest, they're not the ones you'd call when the game turns into trench warfare. So welcome to you, mate. It's great to have you on the show. Are there any additions to those tiers, or does that pretty much sum up the nasty people you would have taken on?
No, I think you've got it just about right on the tiering. We'll get into the meat of it when it comes to putting the names to the tiers, but it's not going to be easy.
No, it won't be easy. And we've got some players from all of the teams around the world. The first one, and I think we're coming straight out of the blocks, it's like a horse race with only winners on the card. Bakkies Botha.
Yeah.
I've played with him and against him. I once hit Bakkies Botha from behind, out of the blue. He didn't see me coming, in the lower back with as much power as I've ever had. And he patted me on the head and he said, "Nice tackle." That was it. I got up slower than he did. What a machine and an amazing enforcer. Any experiences yourself?
Look, he was an amazing enforcer. One of those whereby the physical specimen, like a giant man. I love the story that John Smith, the former captain, tells about him, whereby trying to captain him wasn't always easy. You know, English was his second language, and he wasn't all that good at it. So when Smitty tried to tell him that he needed to behave himself, he needed to behave himself. And I remember he told a story about the Boks playing against England. And Bakkies didn't really like the fact that Matt Stevens, a South African-born prop forward, was playing for England and not South Africa. And all week long, John Smith said to him, "Okay, you can't hit him. You can't hit him. You must not hit him. You must not hit him." And he said, "Okay, boss. Okay, boss. Okay, Kepi. Okay, Kepi." And then the game came around, and the first scrum hit and went in, and Matt Stevens came up with a black eye, an eye that was with blood pouring out of it. And John Smith turned round to him and he said, "Sorry, Kepi." he had dropped his bind.
I've done it anyway.
Yeah, exactly. He just did it anyway. All week long, preparing him for it, and he just couldn't help himself. The bait was there, and he took the bait.
I know in the very, very tough French leagues, he's acclaimed as one of the best ever because he never listened to the referee or anyone. He was always up for a fight. Great player, great guy as well. Good and good fun to have around. Okay, where do you put him?
Well, he's certainly top tier. When it comes to God tier, right? There can't be many who are up there. They've got to be like the cream of the crop. And,
absolutely.
You know, I think there's an element that you've got to go back to 70s, 80s, early 90s to be able to find those, because that was when you were allowed to get away with stuff, and it was all out thuggery in many ways. And I think we've only seen this scrape the surface, but Bakkies.
So I think definitely a top tier,
enforcer, absolutely
toughest
top tier.
ever. Okay, perfect. And then let's talk Jason White.
Yeah, Jace from the Granite City, Aberdeen, and he was made of granite. He hit hard. In a period whereby Scotland needed some hard hitters, Jace stepped up as a skipper. He was actually fairly softly spoken, and he'd get the referees on side. But if you were hit by him, you knew that you were hit by him. And I think he's not far off the top tier for me as well. Not thuggery, but one of those guys that when it came to...
Okay, but so strong, resilient, had his moments, stood up when you needed to talk to him. Okay, definitely middle tier. Yeah, I love that, okay. Jerry Collins.
Oofed.
The Cappuccino Kid, they used to call him. Come out the blind side. He was an incredible hitter. Yeah. Good carrier of the ball as well. Yeah. Smashed it. I love Jerry because of the pure physicality and the joy. We've lost him now, and it was a terribly sad incident. He passed away in a road traffic accident in France, and he'd been living and playing there. The teams and the people around him just absolutely loved him.
Yeah, you know what? One of the things I remember when he played at the Ospreys for a long stint during the golden era down there, Marty Holla in the back row. You know, you had your James Hook, Shane Williams, Lee Burns, Mike Phillips. Justin Marshall, they were all at the Ospreys at the time. And I remember Jerry Collins had it written into his contract that when they played away games, he could stay an extra night. Because he wanted to go and he wanted to engage with the opposition, engage with the people from the away team, and he'd typically stay for an overnight and go out with his opposition players. So he was a man of the people, as well as being such a tough bugger. You know, he both sides of the ball, he was an animal. He was a leader of human beings, and I loved the fact that he looked at connection and he wanted to connect with the away teams as much as he did. You know, but to have an extra overnight before heading back home.
I think that's brilliant. I heard when I was commentating in Wellington in New Zealand that we played against him on the Saturday night, and Sunday morning at 9:15 he turned out for the local rugby club, which was about 7 divisions off the first thing, and he was starting lineup, absolutely no problem. So man of the people, I'm putting him top tier as well.
I think he's almost touching God tier for me.
Oh, fantastic. Okay. Sam Warburton, you're going to have to lean in a bit more. You've played games with and against Sam. He's in the commentary role now, was captain of the Lions, captain of Wales, was well known for a I think, a really harshly judged tip tackle in New Zealand in 2011. Red card for Wales probably turned that match into an unwinnable situation for the team, but I don't think it dimmed his presence and one of a very long and successful career.
You think about Warby, retired late 20s, maybe even sooner. You know, he was young when he retired. He had given everything his body allowed him to give him, and then he stepped away. You talk about that moment with the red card, and then you think about the moment captaining the Lions, whereby it's on a knife edge in New Zealand, and he steps forward and questions the referee's call. And I think he had built up so much credit in the bank with the referees during his period as a captain. A great human being, played the game fair, was hard, was tough, was combative. But in that moment, he stepped forward and he questioned the referee, and the decision went the Lions' way on a knife edge, and it ended up being a draw. It was a series-defining moment whereby the credit that he had built up with the officials, I think, throughout an entire career, paid dividends.
So where do you put him?
Well,
we've been very complimentary.
Yeah, I know. I think so. You know, if we're talking about toughest players,
and remember, this is just we pulled this out of a hat about half an hour ago, exactly. So don't worry, we don't mind too much. But
where I would say middle.
I love that. Yeah. But you're right. Series defining and even career defining moments are what it's all about. Okay, Richie McCaw.
Well, I mean,
he's the big show, isn't he?
He is the big show. I think if you talk about toughest competitors, he was the kind of guy that essentially had referees in his pocket for a stint. Yeah. You know, if Richie McCaw was near the ball, the All Blacks got a penalty. You know, defensively, he was a jackler that was just extraordinaire. He was so fit, so resilient, played so many games, won so many games. Just captain fantastic. Yeah, captain so many games. Just an incredible competitor, incredible athlete. Albeit he would probably say he was a middling athlete who got the best out of himself and managed to get himself into the top tier. So as tough blokes go, I'm not sure that he played the game fair. You didn't see him in many scraps. He was often on the right end of the referee's decision. He's in God tier, I'd say.
Oh, great call. Fantastic rugby player and a great ambassador for the sport as well. Okay, Joe Marler. I'm going to question you on Joe Marler because he's got mad energy, old school grit, plays on chaos, and he's in Traitors, he's on TV, he's got an amazing career afterwards. I mean, but he's got to be one of the toughest guys out there in terms of getting under the opposition's skin.
Yeah, I think he picked out the traitors as well. unlike some of his those who took part alongside him, but. Joe Marler is, you know, front rowers are a unique breed. Not many people want to be front rowers, but those who go into the front row are just a bit different. And we don't really know, well, neither of us knows what it takes to scrummage. You would have been attached to the scrum, but still wouldn't have done that much scrummaging.
There are a whole lot of guys working really hard close to me, but that's it. It's like a bit like a ruck, which I avoided with panache.
Exactly. So, you know, I think to play in the front row, you've got to be wired a little bit differently. I think when it comes to toughness, he would enforce himself on games. He was full of chat. He was full of chirp. On occasions, he'd tell the referees things that they didn't want to know, and he'd convince them things. He would have been the traitor, but he would convince the referee otherwise. But
so on pure toughness,
I would say
mid-tier.
Mid-tier.
Yeah. But great player, and great to have him in the punditry area. Good to have a different angle on life, I suppose, which he's always shown.
If he was in this room, I'd give him God tier. But
absolutely. Yeah. Okay, brilliant. So I think next one I've got to ask you about is Martin Johnson, because he stands out for me as one of the serious enforcer-style captains.
Yeah. Last Northern Hemisphere World Cup winning captain.
Wow.
When you look at the win record of that team over the couple of years leading into the World Cup, he's the man. A man of few words, a man of big actions, and a guy that brought the best out of others, like a real leader. And having got to know him a bit afterwards, again, he still doesn't say an awful lot, but when he does, you listen.
Yeah, you listen.
And I tell you, I wouldn't cross a word with him.
Even with his Leicester Tigers team, I mean, that was his reputation. It was like, we're not going to take a backward step. Yeah. We're going to get out there and physically abuse the opposition to get our as best a position as we can on the field, and then roll it home,
And he bridged amateur into professional.
He did.
If you think about
great player.
97 down to South Africa, he was there. And then just such a phenomenal player. I would put him God tier.
Right up there. That's a big call, but I actually find myself close to agreeing with you, because he's one of the guys who's transcended on that leadership side. Everything else. Okay, a modern day version, maybe not as many games in charge of teams, but Courtney Lawes.
Ooh, yeah. Well, he's
silent assassin. It's like a truck.
He's a bit like Jason White.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
But actually, again, when you think about the presence he had within that England jersey, the quiet presence, until he split someone in half, and spread them
not
across
afraid
the
of the
field.
hard work.
Oh my word!
Yeah.
And such a long stint with Northampton Saints, a real leader. Went about his business quietly, but my goodness, when he stepped up, when you needed, when in your time of need, he stepped up. He's another phenomenal, tough guy.
I think the
leader.
Toughness resonates here for me. He's a tough, he's not the biggest bloke, but he hits hard. I mean, I liked him in that 7 role, blindside flank role, because he got more of a chance to carry the ball as well as make some big hits. I felt at lock sometimes, although he's an amazing line-out forward, was a little bit away from the pure action, unless it was a line-out drive or something like that, coming around the corner.
That's when your Botha comes out, your South African side, whereby the 7 confuses us by playing on the blind side.
Yeah, exactly. I know, wrong side.
Like,
we've had you guys for 10 years now.
Exactly. I think he's a great athlete, which I think some people would have overlooked. So tall, such a great line-out operator, but I think, as you say, when he's on that blindside flank, He was a proper enforcer. Did a lot of the grunt work. Smash
top-tier
rucks.
toughness?
Yeah, I'd say top tier toughness. Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay, this is a favourite for me, because he's around the punditry environment. He's also a businessman as well. But I've never seen a guy give as much for a jersey. Schalk Burger. Yeah. I mean, he survived spinal meningitis on his deathbed. Told his wife, "No, I'm not going anywhere. I'm coming back. I've got a couple of rugby games to play."
Yeah, I mean, you're better placed to know the guy as a bloke.
Yeah. No, just a world class. Loves a cold beer.
Yeah.
Loves a chat. Yeah. So friendly, so nice. But my goodness, on the field, just a different animal.
Yeah, it's one of those whereby now post rugby, you see him with a smile on his face so much.
Yeah,
he's the kind of guy that walks into a room and the energy lifts. If he was smiling at you on field, you probably wouldn't be all that pleased, because you know that he would have either just maimed you or got one over you. He's God tier toughness. I think you mentioned some of the adversity that he's overcome. He would have been the Bakkies enforcer during that period. So I think again I'm struggling to understand at the moment who just takes that one step into God tier. But he's certainly right at the top.
Well,
tier.
I think, look, we're never going to be hung, drawn, and quartered on the exact results here. I'll hold up the lower tier anyway. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. Let's go to one more South African straight away. Nigel Owens' favourite player, Ebenezer.
Oh, he is such a tough bugger. You know, he's just a giant man who, with pythons for arms, and just the look, the look that he could give you would be enough. But I think his longevity, his ability, like, you know, the titles that he's won, the amount of time that he has been picked in that Botha jersey and has fronted up in that Botha jersey, and he has won games in that Botha jersey. He's been a part of the squad for a golden era of winning, this winning period for the Boks, and he's been a mainstay of it. He will be one of the squad fathers within that group. You know, I think if you had to measure respect within that group, he would be at the very top end of the
right up there.
The tree. So you know, he's right at the top tier.
Fantastic. So I'm putting him in top tier for you. Tana Umaga. What a great player. I mean, a backline player. It's hard. We got one more backline player coming up.
We've only got many, Bobby. You know, exactly. You're suggesting that all the tough buggers are up front.
I'm giving you a chance now. Now you can big up Tana Umaga. He's a backline player. We've got one more backline player who's representing. But Tana, for me, was physically outstanding. He was a great leader as well. Famous tackle issue with Brian O'Driscoll. Down under, difficult time for everybody, I think, at that stage. I don't think he's the kind of guy who would always intend to hurt anyone in a bad way, because he was one of the gentlemen of the game as well, but never took a backward step.
Yeah, the predator.
There we go.
You
exactly.
know, and I think you know, I think when you look at that, he was one of the experienced heads when your Dan Carters and so on were coming through, but in a really strong squad. Ran such great lines, was hard both sides of the ball. Yeah, he would have lost a few friends up in the north on that lines tour, tipping Drico on his head. But yeah, he was a really, really tough guy. And you know, you're saying he's in the minority of backs within that, so I'm gonna have to put him. You know, I didn't know him personally, but certainly his reputation went before him. I'd say he's mid to top. Let's go. I
love it. You know, I think that's the Scotsman in you coming out. You're very generous with your time and nice to people. So anyone who's also a nice guy, you make him a little. You say he's tough and nice. He gets a couple of extra points. I love that.
What would you give him?
I think he's mid, because he's probably in the not in the top 3 greatest All Black captains in that space. But I mean, as a player at Super Rugby level, you know, when you talk about tough guys, if you don't have your blindside vision on and he comes at you outside the blindside, it hurts for a long, long time.
I think with this tiering, like lower tier is still lower tier of the cream, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So you know, this is the thing. Like this is mid tier in the elite. That basically
it's mid tier in the top 1%.
Exactly.
Yeah. So there's no. We're not throwing anyone under a bus here. You don't see my name on any of these. You know, the toughest guy back in the change room. You know.
Yeah.
Okay. So an interesting one here, Paul O'Connell.
Paulie, I think, is another quiet guy that went about his business. But if you think about leader of men, resilience, squeezing every ounce of his capabilities out of himself, like there aren't many who did it better than he did.
That's true.
I think he, you know, as captain, he was respected both for the British and Irish Lions and for Ireland.
Yeah.
He had a great stint as Ireland captain, and he was tough. He was built on toughness, and you know, I'm overlooking even the Munster side.
Yeah.
But you know, that Munster side that he led, he went to war, and what was not just representing Munster and his teammates, he was representing the whole province every single time.
Just like you said, I mean, this has been gathered from general sentiment of thousands of people who love their rugby. This is the list, you know what I mean? We've carved it down from 50, to discuss a couple here.
Yeah.
So he's got to be in there for me. And I'm saying top because as a leader of his country, he never took a backward step and then played that role for the Lions as well.
Yeah, exactly that.
Okay, and then the last one we're going to discuss today, and I'm not saying this as a South African to suddenly put him in a lower tier because he was smashing some South Africans and actually having great results against them. But he's known to be a tough guy from a tough mentality, from a tough family, fearless in the tackle and physically. Owen Farrell.
Oh yeah. Look, as a Scotsman, he you know, if I speak on behalf of the rugby fans in Scotland, they wouldn't like him.
Yeah.
Because
I don't think the toughness guys care about
no,
that.
exactly. Mainly because he's hurt Scotland on so many occasions.
And South Africa.
But I mean, just look at Bloodline. His old man was one of the toughest men in rugby league. A tough sport during a tough, when like men were properly men, and you got away with anything. And he was playing top tier, Great Britain and Wigan and England when he was 18 years old. Incredible. Andy Farrell, and then you look at Owen. Andy had Owen young, and he's been tough ever since. Owen Farrell again. If you like a few of the players. If you just looked at raw talent, his talent has been nurtured. It's been developed. He has shown up day on day, week on week, month on month, year on year to get the best out of himself.
Built, and he's strong and made that. Tough.
Yeah, and I think with if you think about Sarries and England, it's a measure of the man without ever having been around him at a training session. Every player around him said, if Owen was in training, the standards were lifted. If he was missing from training, the standards dropped. Yeah. And, some people might say he was pernickety, a perfectionist, but actually that's just standards. Yeah. So, with regards to that, he was tough himself, physically tough, but also driving standards and leading others and driving expectation out of others that was beyond probably personal ceiling of some of his teammates. That says a lot.
It does say a lot. I think for me that's a good indicator of top tier toughness.
Yeah.
Okay, we've ranted on for a little bit here, but loads of fun. Rory, always good to see you at this time of the year when the rest of the world is looking north. Autumn internationals are happening. It's always fun to have a relook at some of those tough players, and I have no doubt that in some of the games here, reputations will be made and broken again.